listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today, man, we have another show lineup for y'all. Man, we're going to be talking to a special guest, Jo Piazza. She's the host of the podcast She Wants More. And man, she is a international best-selling author, and it's a true honor to have her on this morning. First and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Shamaya?
All is well, all is well. So, man, this podcast, I only have to say introduction to it. She Wants More kind of explains itself. Tell us a little bit about this podcast.
So She Wants More is a podcast exploring women's infidelity, women having affairs. And it's groundbreaking because, frankly, in pop culture and media, we have talked about men having affairs forever. It's become kind of a punchline. Like, oh, he's such a stinker. He just went off and hooked up with someone at Bob's bachelor party. But, you know, when we talk about female infidelity, it becomes this tragedy. She's a bad wife. She's a bad mother. We wanted to break down those stigmas by having real women tell us about their affairs, how it changed their lives for better and for worse. And many of these women are talking about it for the very first time.
And you know, I had to listen to a couple of episodes because I was like, all right, this is going to be interesting. And man, those stories, man, they kind of wild. The Staple story and I mean, very interesting. Were you shocked by any of the stories that they told? Because a lot of them very interesting, especially one with the spreadsheet. I was like, wow.
It's interesting. They are saucy. I was shocked by a lot of them. And I went into this with some level of judgment, thinking, oh my gosh, like, how do I feel about infidelity? I've been married for 7 years. I have 3 children. And I walked out of it thinking, you know, we've just got to have an open mind about how people want and how people need to live. And there's one woman in the podcast who decided she wanted to have an affair, and she went on the website Ashley Madison, which is a kind of, you know, a dating website for married people who want to have affairs. And she made a spreadsheet of all of the men and like listed them by, you know, how good of a conversation partner were they? What kinds of things did they say to her? What did they want? How close did they live to her? And it's such I think that a female characteristic of, I'm going to organize all the potential people that I might have an affair with and choose the best one from this spreadsheet.
I'm sure she took a while for that to happen because hundreds apparently were trying to, you know, just have that conversation with her. So, yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. When you look at all the different stories, is there one that is like a favorite, or do all of them kind of hit the spiciness?
Oh, gosh. They all hit for a different reason. You know, some of them hit really emotionally, and some of them really are just like spicy. You walk away, you're like, wow, dang, girl. So I think each episode, what I tried to do is make each episode live on its own, right? You don't have to listen sequentially. You don't have to listen to the whole thing. You can dip in, you can dip out. What we're hoping is that people listen to this with friends and maybe even with their spouse.
And for all the guys out there, I'm going to look out for them. What do you suggest they do after they listen to this podcast?
Talk to your wife, talk to your partner, talk about all of the things that you're scared to talk about. Because if I've noticed anything reporting the She Wants More podcast, it's that the main thing that leads to an affair is the lack of communication between spouses.
See, we just did everyone a big favor right there. So, man, once again, we're talking to Jo Piazza and all about her podcast, She Wants More. I mean, talking about fireworks. Just listening to the introduction, I was like, oh, wow.
Right?
I don't think I can stop listening. And then
this is a sexy podcast, Shamaya.
What shocked me was the story that the lady was talking about with the guy and his experience with Staples. I found that very like, wow, that's interesting. Were you shocked by that story, or was that like, that sounds like something a guy would do?
I wasn't shocked by any of it. I have to say, I went into it with some judgment. And in the beginning, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to hear. But then I tried to just tamper down my judgment and let these stories flow. the way that I think they needed to flow. And one of the most interesting things that came up was just how a lot of women characterize these affairs as self-care. That this is what they needed to take care of themselves in order to be able to take care of their spouse, in order to be able to take care of their children, in order to be a functioning person in the world in so many cases.
Man, I'm telling you, if you haven't listened to She Wants More podcast, you might want to, like one of the ladies said on your show, you might want to dip your toe in there and see what it's like, because I think a lot of people will probably find themselves like just listening, because once you start listening, it's like, oh, I can't stop this episode. I gotta finish this episode, man.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping is the case.
So, I mean, like I said in the intro, you're doing big things. You're known for your top selling books, and with this podcast, do you think you might start creating some similar shows like this? Because it sounds like you probably tapping a major market.
We're definitely tapping into something. I mean, I spent the past 5 years making the Committed podcast on iHeart. We have nearly 200 episodes of that show where we talked to real people about their marriages. And now we have She Wants More, which looks at infidelity. And I think that there is definitely a space for this. I mean, I'm looking at all sorts of options for how to build on this brand and keep getting this kind of content to people.
Well, once again, you can listen to She Wants More on iHeartRadio podcast and anywhere you can hear podcasts. Want to say thank you to the one and only Jo Piazza. Thank you for your time talking to us today. You have a good one.
Thanks so much, Shemaiah. Bye.